block vaccine exports to Northern Ireland, which could have led to checks on the decision.
The Commission made a mistake. They didn't consult us, they didn't consult our friends in Dublin, and they united parties in Northern Ireland, from Sinn Féin on one side to the DUP on the other, in condemnation.
As the World Health Organization calls for a global approach to the pandemic, we assess how the vaccine's being rolled out here in the UK and across the world. And champions Exeter are back to winning ways in Rugby Union's Premiership, but they're pushed close by Worcester. Hello, very good evening to you. The government says the European Commission recognises it made a mistake, threatening to impose controls on the export of coronavirus vaccines from the EU into Northern Ireland. It was a decision that could have seen checks on its border with the Republic of Ireland. The move, which was reversed late last night, came amidst a deepening row over vaccine supplies. The First Minister of Northern Ireland accused Brussels of an incredible act of hostility. Michael Gove insists the UK will work with the EU to address issues and that the UK's vaccine programme is still on track. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley reports.
Vaccines are the great hope, a potential way out of the coronavirus crisis.
No.
In the UK, ministers believe the rollout is going well. This was the first vaccine in Northern Ireland last month. But in the EU, there's concern about supply. Brussels introduced controls on vaccine exports. But that led to a furious row over what could happen here, the Irish border. The EU planned to use emergency powers from the Brexit deal, which would have imposed restrictions in Northern Ireland. After widespread condemnation, Brussels dropped the plan last night.
I think the European Union recognise now that they made a mistake yesterday. The Commission made a mistake. They didn't consult us, they didn't consult our friends in Dublin, and they united parties in Northern Ireland, from Sinn Féin on one side to the DUP on the other, in condemnation. And people in Northern Ireland were bewildered by this step.
In the Republic of Ireland too, there was surprise that its leaders weren't involved in the initial decision.
It clearly was a mistake in that regard. I think, however, what's important is that the channel of communications are open and they are constructive ones. They took on board what we said and they relatively quickly pulled back.
At Westminster, there was rare unity across the Brexit divide as politicians condemned Brussels. But some are now arguing the government here should use its emergency powers to protect trade between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK.
We were told that under no circumstances could the European Commission countenance a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but yet 29 days into the protocol they're quite happy to invoke it when it's in their interests.
I do fear that it has caused some political damage and it's given the Brexiteers an opportunity to use it to their own advantage, and I think that's very unfortunate given the fact that there was a lot of attention and effort and dedication put into protecting the all-island economy.
Avoiding a hard border in Ireland was one of the hardest tasks of the Brexit negotiation, and that's why some here are so frustrated that Europe seems to have been willing to use its emergency powers so. And although it's now changed its mind, there are questions over what this will do to trust between Brussels and London and whether something similar could happen again. Brussels is still introducing some controls, giving member states powers to block exports. But after last night's row, some want a rethink.
I do think it was a big mistake, and I hope that the European Union comes back with some conciliatory measures. We must do everything that we can, everything that we have in our power to find a solution. And any kind of vaccine nationalism, I think, is simply wrong.
A major post-Brexit crisis has been avoided, but there are still big questions over the vaccine rollout internationally and how vaccine diplomacy will work.
Well, Nick's here. You mentioned trust in your report there. What is the likely lasting impact of this?
Well, domestically, the UK government is still confident that although export controls are being brought in, it won't impact supply in the UK. Remember, the UK gets some of the vaccines, for example, from Pfizer's plant in Belgium. The line from ministers is they are still confident that contracts will be fulfilled, and they're still sticking to the target of vaccinating everyone in the 4 most at-risk categories by mid-February. I think Europe is clearly feeling the heat over its rollout. There is some frustration at the pace it's going. Clearly, European countries want to get jabs into people's arms as quickly as possible too. But there is also a lot of concern at what happened last night. After all those warnings from both sides during the Brexit process about maintaining an open border on Ireland, that it got to this stage. The government here is trying to play down the impact. Michael Gove even talking about trying to help Brussels with some of his own shortages today. You heard Ireland's Taoiseach, the Prime Minister, saying that he wants to play this down as well. He thinks that there's an open conversation now that will avoid this happening in the future. But don't underestimate the frustration that some have that it got to that stage last night, and the amazement really that some of those issues weren't flagged up sooner.
No, indeed. Nick, thank you very much. Indeed. And Andrew Marr will interview the Irish Prime Minister about all of this here on BBC One tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So as we've been hearing then, governments across the world are grappling with how best to roll out vaccines with varying degrees of success. Here in the UK, 5 out of 6 people who are over 80 have now had their first jab. Our health correspondent Catherine Da Costa explains the approach the UK's taken to vaccine procurement and delivery.
The UK vaccination programme's already well underway, with more than 300 million doses on order from 7 different companies. 3 have already been approved, although only the Oxford-AstraZeneca and the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines are in use. Supplies of Moderna are expected in the spring. This week, 2 other vaccines were also found to be highly effective at protecting people from falling seriously ill with COVID. If they're approved by the UK regulator, Novavax and Janssen could be rolled out in the second half of this year. Unlike the other vaccines, the Janssen one only needs 1 shot, and because it can be kept in a fridge, it could have a significant impact on the global pandemic. The UK is also committed to help distribute more than 1 billion vaccines to developing countries this year. So how's the vaccine campaign going? Well, Israel's got off to a good start with 53 doses given per 100 people, followed by the United Arab Emirates, and the UK's on 12 per 100. The UK Vaccine Task Force says its support for clinical trials and securing deals early on has given it an advantage over its European neighbours, with countries like Spain, Germany and France still lagging behind. One major concern for scientists is whether new variants might stop current vaccines from working as effectively. The good news is that Novavax was found to be 86% effective against the variant found in the UK, and both Novavax and Janssen were about 60% effective against the version found in South Africa. Scientists are still studying their impact on current vaccines. Early results suggest they should still be pretty effective. But if changes are needed, companies say they can be tweaked within weeks or months. And like flu, we may need new vaccines each year.
Catherine Da Costa reporting there. So let's take a look then at the latest government figures. There were 23,275 new coronavirus infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period. It means, on average, the number of new cases reported per day in the last week is 25,519. The number of people in hospital is falling, with 34,783 currently in hospital. 1,200 deaths were reported. That's people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. On average, in the past week, 1,177 deaths were announced every day. The total number of deaths so far then across the UK, 105,571. Now, there are also figures for the numbers of people vaccinated. 487,756 people have had their first dose of one of the 3 approved COVID-19 vaccines in the latest 24-hour period, meaning nearly 8.4 million people in the UK have had their first jab now. West Midlands police say 2 teenagers have been charged with the murder of 15-year-old Keon Lincoln. Keon died after suffering gunshot and stab wounds in Handsworth in Birmingham on Thursday last week. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 were in custody to appear before Birmingham Magistrates Court on Monday. A man's been charged after a suspicious package was sent to a coronavirus vaccine production site in North Wales. All staff had to be evacuated from the Rockhard site in Wrexham on Wednesday, and production was halted while the package was investigated. Anthony Collins, who's 53 and from Chatham, has been remanded in custody to attend Maidstone Crown Court next month. Now, there's growing concern about the conflict in the Central African Republic as rebel forces surround the capital, Bangui. Former Prime Minister Martin Zugule described the situation as apocalyptic, with fighting across the country. The UN says rebel attacks are blocking humanitarian access, and more than 200,000 people have now fled their homes. Here, a dinosaur footprint has been discovered by a 4-year-old girl on a beach near Barry in South Wales. Lily Wilder made the discovery while on a walk with her father Richard on Bendricks Bay. The footprint, which is 220 million years old, is 10 centimetres long. It's been described as one of the best examples from anywhere in the UK. Now, it's hoped it will help establish more about how early dinosaurs walked. Lily's dad said she was just the right height to have spotted it.
Well, we're just literally walking along the beach, doing the usual thing, looking for shells and what have you. And Lily said, "Daddy, look at this." And there it was, this amazing footprint. Almost, just unbelievably realistic that you couldn't believe it was real.
Well done, Lily. With all the sport then, Lizzie Greenwood-Hughes is at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi, Lizzie.
Hello, thanks very much, Kate. Good evening. We're starting with football, and that means I need to warn you that Match of the Day and Sports Scene are coming up later. So if you don't want to know what happened yet, then avert your attention because the results are coming now. Manchester City have extended their lead at the top of the Premier League to 3 points after a narrow win over bottom side Sheffield United. But the biggest surprise was Newcastle's 2-0 victory at Everton, a relief for manager Steve Bruce, whose side hadn't won for 12 games. Callum Wilson scored both their goals. In the other games, Arsenal against Manchester United was goalless. Crystal Palace beat Wolves. Southampton lost at home to Aston Villa. And the relegation clash between West Brom and Fulham ended in a draw. In Scotland, St Mirren won at Celtic for the first time in 31 years. The result keeps Celtic 23 points behind Premiership leaders Rangers, who play in the week. There were also wins for Hibs and St Johnstone. English Premiership Rugby Union is back this weekend after an enforced break due to the pandemic. Champions Exeter overcame a gutsy Worcester side 21-17 to move up to second in the table, while Gloucester stayed bottom after a 31-26 defeat by Northampton. Nesta McGregor has the details.
Exeter started the season with 4 straight wins. 2 defeats in a row was described as a wobble. Steady hands were needed to prevent another loss. Step forward Johnny Gray beneath a pile of bodies. 2 weeks off seemed to have refreshed both teams. Worcester got stronger as the half went on. Ollie Morris slicing through the defence. The sides traded 1 more try each. Exeter held on for the win, but still 5 points behind leaders Bristol. At the other end of the table, bottom side Gloucester hosted Northampton. The Saints had been out of action for an extra fortnight due to a COVID outbreak at the club. A gritty first half with both teams forced into early substitutions after this nasty heads. Gloucester went into the break with the lead and then extended it. Willie Hines touching down between the posts. But 3 tries in 10 minutes saw Northampton take charge. Roy Hutchinson, then 2 from Sean Adendorf. They remain mid-table. Gloucester, unwatchable for some. That's now 3 months without a win. Nesta McGregor, BBC News.
England's Paul Casey is leading Golf's Dubai Desert Classic going into the final day. An incredible third round, including 6 birdies and an eagle on the final hole, helped him move a shot clear at the top of the leaderboard, just ahead of the young Scotsman Robert McIntyre. Both players are hoping to do enough to earn a place on Europe's Ryder Cup team in September. The 7-time Australian Open tennis champion Serena Williams has been practicing in Melbourne after being allowed out of quarantine. Many of the players have had to stay indoors ahead of the Grand Slam, which starts in just over a week's time. The tournament organisers confirmed today that up to 30,000 fans will be allowed in to watch, around half the usual capacity. And you can find out on the BBC Sport website how British freestyle skier Izzy Atkin won a silver medal at the X Games despite crashing on her final run. But that's it from me. Back to you, Kate.
Lizzie, thank you very much indeed. Well, you can see much more, of course, on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. But from me and the team here, it's a very good night. Bye-bye.
Hello, the UK will come close to its lowest temperature of the winter so far tonight. It currently stands at -13. Won't be far away from that in the coldest parts of Scotland. It'll be icy in places, particularly where we've seen some of today's wet weather. We know that's been snow across parts of Wales, not just in Wales, but this area of rain, sleet and snow fizzled out this evening, clearing away southwards under clearing skies. That's why temperatures are dropping. Low pressure moving away. Another one getting close to us tomorrow, bringing some more rain, sleet and snow to some western parts, especially in the afternoon. But for the rest of the night, icy where it's been wet, and where some wintry showers continue in Scotland, especially in the Northern Isles, overnight and into tomorrow. And away from those headline-grabbing low temperatures in Highland Scotland, a widespread frost to start the day. A few freezing fog patches in Scotland, most of us, though, with a sunny, crisp start to the day. But then here comes the clouds. Sun turns hazy, but it clouds over with rain, sleet and snow to southwest England, Wales. Most of the snow in the hills, but potentially to some low levels for a time in parts of Wales and Northern Ireland on another cold, raw day. And we will see further damp weather across southern parts overnight and into Monday, further rain, sleet and hill snow in Northern Ireland. And on Monday, a chance of a bit of snow pushing into Scotland. But Monday night and into Tuesday, more significant weather system bringing more rain to flood affected areas and some significant snow pushing northwards. We'll keep you updated on that. Good night.
I've got to be honest and straight up.
2020 was a mess.
I feel anxious when I wake up.
We catch confusion like a virus.
We've left the earth in a state.
Friends about the work, robbed of the future.
I don't know if I'm doing enough or if it's all too late.
Everyone should be equal. At the end of the day, we're all just people.
Times have been hard for us all, with everything last year has thrown. But we're on your side. You are not alone. Whatever this year brings, we'll face it together. The future's not cancelled.
This man will keep on killing until he is caught.
And what if he's never caught?
The Serpent. All episodes streaming now on BBC iPlayer.
Hello, I'm Raheem Sterling. I'm here with Desmond Walker.
Absolutely stunning goal! What a fantastic goal! That is world-class.
Whoa! You'll have to cut that bit.
We've got to stay like this. I'm going to bow.
I think you've got good footage there.
Football live.
The most famous trophy of all has its most worn ribbons on again.
And on demand.
Extra content there for you guys.
Leicester are top of the league.
Better wash my pants.
Like nowhere else on BBC iPlayer.
Later tonight, feel the tingle of a superb thriller. Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, starring Gene Hackman, across on BBC Two at 5 to 12. Here now, what thrills from the pitch?
first win in 6 Premier League games for the champions. And the header's gone in from Ward. Can you believe this?
It is 9 now without a win for Newcastle in the Premier League.
Thomas Tuchel has to settle for a draw in his first game in charge.
Daka, that is a fantastic finish. The revival continues. And the shot is